The show begins with Choi Sonu coming home from school. She notices her friend Sue's workbook in her bag, so she decides to return it on her way to Sue's house. Sonu sees Suen going into Kyung-ho's house. Even though Kyung-ho and Sonu like each other, Sonu decides to go back home. Inside Kyung-ho's house, Suen sees him setting up a fancy meal to propose to Sonu. Suen gets angry because of something Kyung-ho says and threatens to kill him with a knife. Sonu hears the noise from outside and goes inside to see Suen holding a knife with her burnt head exposed. Suen is about to attack, but Kyung-ho jumps in to protect Sonu and gets stabbed instead. Kyung-ho dies, and Soo-hui goes back home with her uniform covered in his blood. At home, Sonu's mother, Anju, is shocked to see her daughter covered in blood. Sonu tells her mother that she killed Kyung-ho and starts crying. The episode then flashes back to Soo-yeon's first day at school. Sonu and her friends, Kang-ho and Hyunwoo, are in the same class. The teacher introduces Soo-yeon as the new student. Soo-yeon tries to talk to Sonu, but realizes that Sonu doesn't remember her. Feeling embarrassed, Suen goes to her seat, still watching Sonu. During lunch break at school, Sonu is eating with Kang-ho and Hyunwoo, and Kang-ho talks about Sonu's peanut allergy. They chat about how perfect Sonu's family is, mentioning how her mom always packs her lunch and her dad is great at his job. Soo-yeon, sitting nearby, hears this and decides to leave. That night, Sonu's dad, Jin Ha-yak, wins an award for excellence. His wife, Young-moo, and daughter Sonu celebrate with him. The next day, at school, a boy in Sonu's class gives her a gift. Kang-ho seems jealous while Hyunwoo jokes around with Sonu. Later, Kang-ho gives Sonu a custom swan keychain, and she thanks him. Hyunwoo and Suen watch them from a distance. After school, Sonu tells Kyung-ho and Hanamu that she needs to study. So-yeon finds Sonu alone in the classroom and tries to talk to her. She brings out a matchbox to remind Sonu of their childhood friendship. We then see a flashback of young Sonu being bothered by some boys when Suen steps in to help her. The two orphaned girls talk about their families, and Suen mentions that she doesn't know where her parents are. Sonu says that her mother passed away, but her father is still alive. At the orphanage, Suyu and Suen become good friends until one day, Suen tells Sonu that she's going to be adopted. Back in the present, Suen says that her adoption was cancelled because of an accident, but Sonu doesn't know about it. Sonu promises to help Suen in any way she can. Suen then asks to borrow the keychain that Kyung-ho gave to Sonu. That night, Kang-ho and Hyunwoo are sitting on the basketball court talking about Sonu. Hyunwoo says that Sonu will never return Kyung-ho's feelings because she is too focused on her studies. Sonu shows up and asks her friends what they plan to do for her birthday, which gives Kang-ho an idea. Later, during dinner, Seon-wei is thinking about Soo-yeon and asks her dad for advice on how to talk to her friend. Jin Ha-yak suggests that Sonu write a letter to share her feelings. Meanwhile, Suen goes to her part-time job to pick up her paycheck, but finds out that her boss closed the shop because of his gambling debts. Suen is worried because she was struggling with money after enrolling in the private school that Sonu attends. At school the next day, Soo-yeon tries to ask Sonu for some money, but Sonu has earphones on and doesn't hear her. Feeling embarrassed, Suen shouts at Sonu, asking to borrow money. The whole class, including Kang-ho, is shocked by the scene. That night in her hostel room, Suen's roommate asks if she's made any new friends at school. Suen says that even with financial help, it's been hard to make ends meet. The roommate asks if her childhood friend is helping her, but Suen replies that Sonu doesn't remember her anymore. The next day, Kyung-ho gives some money to Suen and tells her to stop bothering Sonu. Suen gets angry and punches Kyung-ho in the face. She yells at Sonu for treating her like a beggar and storms off. After school, Suen sees Sonu's parents picking up Sonu and Kyung-ho in their car. Two classmates approach Suen trying to befriend her by speaking badly about Sonu, but Suen doesn't join in and walks away. The next day, Kyung-ho asks to speak with Suen alone and apologizes for giving her money without asking first. Suen feels touched by his apology and heads back to class, where she runs into Sonu. Sonu tells Suen that she asked Kyung-ho to apologize, which makes Suen upset. Later, Suen talks with Yeonmu about his feelings for Sonu. Yeonmu tells Suen that both Sonu and Kyung-ho come from wealthy families, and that he could never even think about dating Sonu. This comment makes Suen feel sad, and wonders if someone like her, an orphan, should even dream of dating anyone. That night, Suen waits outside Sonu's academy and asks to talk privately. She takes Sonu to an empty parking spot and confronts her about the accident that caused her hair loss. Suen explains that after the accident, her burnt scalp caused her adoption to be cancelled. She reminds Sonu of the night before her adoption, when they were outside the orphanage and Suen accidentally started a fire. While most of the kids escaped, Sonu got burned in the fire. After the incident, Sonu was adopted, but Suyun's adoption was cancelled because of her injury. A flashback shows young Sonu reading a story to young Sonu at the orphanage, putting her to sleep. Suen reminds Sonu about the fire that ruined her life. Sonu is shocked to learn that she caused the fire and says she thought Suen had already gone to live with her new parents before the night of the fire. She apologizes to Suen, but Suen says that she will do everything she can to get what she deserves. That night, Sonu can't sleep because she keeps thinking about how her mistake affected Suen. She decides to follow her father's advice and writes a letter to Suyun, which she leaves on her desk. The next day, Suen finds the letter and reads it. On the rooftop, she feels moved by Sonu's apology when the two other girls from their class arrive. The girls try to convince Suen to join them in bullying Sonu, but instead, Suen beats them up and warns them to stay away from Sonu. She then returns to class and thanks Sonu for the letter. Sonu feels happy about this and heads home. On her way, Suen is confronted by two boys who beat her up. The boys are friends with the girls who wanted Suen to help them bully Sonu. The boys attack Suen in an empty alley, but Kyung-ho shows up and saves her. He fights off the boys and threatens to expose the two bullies in their class. The boys run away, and Kyung-ho checks to see if Suen is okay. Hanamu arrives and tells Kyung-ho that the police are on their way. Kyung-ho grabs Suen's arm and they run away before the cops arrive. That night, Kyung-ho and Hanamu drop Suen off at her home to make sure she is safe. Suen feels touched by their kindness. The next day, in class, she sees Kyung-ho and Sonu taking photos together and offers to take a picture of them with Hanamu. Later, she asks if she can take a photo with Kyung-ho. That night, Sonu invites Suen to have dinner at her house. Suen is surprised to see how luxurious Sonu's life is and how loving her parents are. She goes home that night feeling uncomfortable. The next day, while Suen is emptying the classroom trash can, she overhears Kyung-ho and Hyunmu talking. Hyunmu tells Kyung-ho to forget about proposing to Sonu, saying she is too focused on her studies to date. He suggests that Kyung-ho should ask Suen out since he seems to have feelings for him. Kyung-ho finds the idea strange and tells Hanamu that he isn't interested.
In Suwon, he also says that he plans to ask Sonu out that day. Hearing this, Sonu gets upset and goes back to class. She angrily tells Sonu that she's not a good friend and asks her to walk home with her after school. When school ends, Kyung-ho asks Sonu to walk home with him, but she says no and explains she needs to go to the academy. She leaves with Suwon. Suwon walks Sonu home that evening and then goes to meet Kyung-ho. Meanwhile, Sonu realizes she accidentally took Sudan's workbook and goes to return it. She sees Suwon entering Kyung-ho's house and hears loud noises coming from inside. She enters the house and witnesses Sudan stabbing Kyung-ho with the knife, killing him in his living room that night. Sonu returns home and tells her mother, Yeonju, that she killed Kyung-ho. She also says she left her phone in the workbook at Kyung-ho's house. Sonu asks if Suwon is sure she killed Kyung-ho and whether there were any other witnesses. Sonu says she wants to turn herself in, but Yeonju forces her to clean herself up. Yeonju makes Sonu a glass of milk and secretly adds something to make her sleep. The next morning, Sonu wakes up and is shocked to see her phone and the workbook on her desk. She goes downstairs and finds her parents, Yeonju and Jin Hyok, talking as if nothing happened. Yeonju sets the table for breakfast like normal. Sonu finds their calmness strange after what happened the night before, but then something on the news broadcast catches her attention. The news report says that Kyung-ho's house caught fire, killing his entire family. Meanwhile, detectives Dong-ho and Somu are at the scene and investigating. Somu explains to Dong-ho that cigarettes and paint thinner found in Kang-ho's room started the fire. He mentions that the paint thinner wasn't unusual because Kang-ho's father was a painter. Then Dong-ho notices Suwon in the crowd outside the burned-down house. He sees she's wearing a school uniform and tells Somu to find out more about Kang-ho's friends. A flashback shows that Yeonju and Jin Hyuk visiting the orphanage and asking Somu to come home with them. Suwon runs from Kang-ho's house to see Sonhu. She tries to visit her, but Sonhu's mother, Yeonju, won't let her in. Suwon insists and goes to Sonhu's room, finding her in shock. Suwon tries to force Sonhu to go to the police with her and confess to the murder. Instead, she asks if Sonhu was the one who set Kang-ho's house on fire and killed his parents. But Sonhu doesn't answer. Suwon takes off her wig and tries to make Sonhu feel guilty, saying she should take the blame for Kang-ho's death to make up for the injuries Suwon got from the fire Sonhu caused. Suwon tries to drag Sonhu out, but Jin Hyuk stops her. Upset, Suwon leaves. Meanwhile, Sonhu breaks down crying her room. Suwon skips school while the other students gossip about Kang-ho's supposed drug use. Yunwood defends Kang-ho and threatens to fight anyone who talks badly about him. Suwon thinks about going to the police and remembers what happened at Kang-ho's house that led to his death. A flashback shows that after Kang-ho tells Suwon he plans to ask Sonhu out, Suwon becomes upset. She tries to stop him, but gets angry when Kang-ho misunderstands her feelings. Unable to confess her true feelings for him, she decides to ruin his surprise. Suwon shows Kang-ho the swan keychain and tells him that Sonhu gave it to her because she didn't like him. Kang-ho asks Suwon to give him the keychain and they start fighting. Suwon gets angry and starts wrecking the painting and cake during the fight. Suwon loses her wig and feels embarrassed, wondering why she always seems to suffer. She picks up a knife and tries to harm herself, but Kang-ho tries to stop her. At the same time, Sonhu hears the commotion outside and goes into the house. She sees Suwon holding a knife at Kang-ho. When Sonhu tries to intervene, Suwon gets angry and tries to attack her. Kang-ho tries to protect Sonhu and ends up dying in the present day. Suwon decides not to go to the police station and walks home instead. Jin Hyuk finds her walking on the street, offers her a ride, and takes her home. At home, Sonhu tries to talk to her mother about the fire, but Yeonju acts like nothing happened and pretends everything is normal. At the police station, the detectives find a link between Suwon and Kang-ho. Detective Dong-ho notes that Suwon was at the crime scene that morning, while Sonhu said she was absent from school that day. That night, Sonhu wakes up in Jin Hyuk's car, but he knocks her out by hitting her on the head. Suwon manages to wake up and escape from the car when Jin Hyuk goes to get something from the trunk. Sonhu tries to call Suwon, but can't reach her. She thinks about all the good times she had with him and Kang-ho and starts crying. Sonhu looks up news reports about the fire and breaks down again. The next day, Yunho comes to pick up Sonhu to go to Kang-ho's funeral. They both pay their respects to Kang-ho and his parents. As they're leaving, Sonhu collapses and loses consciousness. Jin Hyuk arrives and carries Sonhu out of the funeral home. Outside, the police arrive and want to question Sonhu. While Jin Hyuk talks to the police, Sonhu finds the swan keychain in the car and picks it up. She remembers that it was last with Sudon. Sonhu notices she hasn't been answering her calls, so Sonhu starts to think that her father might be involved in the incident and feels scared inside. Inside the house, Sonhu and her parents answer questions from the detectives. The detectives leave after not finding anything suspicious. Jin Hyuk praises Sonhu for being strong and promises to protect her no matter what. Outside, Detective Dong-ho suspects Sonhu might be guilty. Back in her room, Sonhu tries to call Suwon again and gets worried when she can't reach her. She asks Yunho more for Suwon's address and decides to visit her. Sonhu meets Suwon's roommate and adopted sister, who tells her that Suwon hasn't come home since she left for school the day before. She explains that Suwon sometimes disappears when she's in trouble. At the police station, the section chief tells Dong-ho to close the case, saying it was an accident. Then the forensic expert arrives and reveals that Kang-ho died from a stabbed wound. Dong-ho and Sonhu tell their boss they need to investigate the case further.
That night, Sonhu returns home and tries to figure out where Sudan might have gone. In the alley near her house, she meets a man named Shoi Hinman, who says he is related to Jin Hyuk. Hinman asks Sonhu if she knows who lived in the street view room in her house. Sonhu looks confused, but Hinman apologizes for the strange question and leaves, saying he will see her again. Before he leaves, he whispers in Sonhu's ear, warning her to be careful of her parents. Jin Hyuk watches the whole thing from his room. In a flashback, Kang-ho asks his father to review his painting. His father, a professional painter, calls the painting average. At school, Kang-ho and Sonhu decide to draw each other. Sonhu praises Kang-ho's drawing, which makes him feel better about himself, and he starts to fall in love with her. We see Kang-ho holding onto the painting that Sonhu made for him.